Well, g'day and welcome back to the shed. This is part 6, unbelievably, of this Bush VHF64. It has gone on, and I left you at the end of part 5 just as I was starting on this cabinet. It really has quite a bit of work to do on it. That said, the chassis also has a little bit more to do on it. I have to do an RF alignment, particularly on the FM section, and I'm hoping that that will improve the audio level on the FM as compared to the AM. It's still a bit different. But if I don't get started on this, I'm never going to finish. So let's get into it. Now the main thing I'm going to have to deal with is this corner here, and that has split apart. Obviously it's taken quite a hard knock on this corner, and what I'm going to have to do is try and knit this back together so that it shows as little as possible, and then I'll try and patch what isn't there. A feeling on the inside, it feels like that there's a sheet of veneer along the inside of this. I didn't look at it when I was out cleaning it because it was obviously the top of the cabinet was clean, so I'll just have a quick look at that. Right, so that will give me good access to the inside of where that crack is. Runs horizontally along there somewhere. Okay, I've marked along the inside where the crack is, and so the first thing I'm going to do is try and get some glue in there. Squirt some in. I'll tip the cabinet up so that that runs downwards. Just rub it in. I'll try and push it in here like that. Better clean the blade of my cutter as well. Okay, I'll put a piece of tape over that to stop dribbles. I'll take that off. I just put a bit of tape over it to hold it in place, but this is not really going to do it, and it's taking all the surface off. Never mind. So I need to press this in nice and hard and hold it that way. So I guess I'll start by getting some glue in there. Rub that in and wipe off the excess. The glue will, if it gets into the timber, will stop the stain. Gee, that rooster's loud. Stop the stain from getting into the timber. So I'll wipe that off with some water actually. That rooster isn't even ours. Next doors have 2 roosters, Barry and Gary, and I'm not sure if that's Barry or Gary, but he keeps escaping into our yard to visit our hens and stays around crowing and carrying on. Enough to drive you nuts. Anyway, I'll see if I can pull this in. Okay, that's going to kind of work. I'll just wipe that off a bit. I have to work reasonably quickly, so I've pre-made up this brace to hold the back of it straight. Not straight, but to stop it from crushing downwards. And it just fits under here. And I've made up these 2 packing pieces to protect the edge so that that doesn't get crushed downwards. And what I'm going to do is put a ratchet strap around it and try and tighten it up and pull it in that way. So I'll just get these in here, bit of tape to hold them in place. And now the ratchet strap. And I'll tighten this up very slowly while pushing this in. One more click. And that looks as if it's pulled in nicely. Just a little bit of glue seeping out there, but it's not too bad. I think that will be okay. I'll let that dry for a while. Probably 24 hours would be good because I really want it good and dry to hold together before I glue up the rest of the cabinet. I thought I'd put a second strap on it just to even up the pressure, so I'm just tightening that up. I think that will be enough. Just holds the pressure more evenly along the split. Well, these have been on for 12 hours or more anyway. I put them on about lunchtime and it's now probably 8 o'clock or something at night. I thought I'd take them off and just see how it's gone. Now, the strap has stuck to the glue here, so I'll just have to be very careful how I pull it off, but gee, that's not a bad result. So there we are. The crack ran all the way from there, so I think that's fine. And it's not, there's no ridge or anything beyond that little ridge of glue there where the strap stuck to it. So there won't be much sanding involved. I don't like sanding veneer too much. The danger of going through it is always there. So I've got the cabinet on its end. Now this piece here is completely loose, except that it's trapped under this end. Okay, so I've got this screw loose. The screw's looking a little bit rusty. Now I'll see if this will then pull out. Not really. Yes, it is coming out. Yes. There we go. So these screws here only just go into the plywood, and having pulled out, I don't think I'd get them to grip again. Just about to plug these holes, and I was thinking what I would do with them. Looking around, yep, I found this box of matches. How long is it since you've seen a box of matches? Just thinking about it. Anyway, just going to whittle down a match to a point, put them in there, glue them, and cut it off. I might also do the same with these little splits in the veneer. Just about the right size. So that's all of them done. I've got a match sticking up in the hole and then a horizontal match on each one, or piece of match, and I've messed that one up. Glued into where the veneer had split out. Yep, that's fine. So once that glue dries, that'll be pretty solid. I'll clean it up with a sharp chisel and re-screw the thing on. I decided to move out onto the back veranda because it's a nice spring day, and looking at this, I think before I go any further I want to take this trim off, and it seems that it's held on. It must be split somewhere, this brass strip that goes around it, and the only place I can see is under these mouldings. They seem to be just pressed over. I thought I could pull them off from the front, but that doesn't look likely. The trim does move a little bit. Just have a look on the inside. And there we go. Now this should just pull off, if I can do it very carefully without damaging it. There we go. So I'll just, got this green hooky tool here, I'm just going to try and ease it off with that. It's a very useful gadget. Okay, so that's one, and the other half, I don't know if, I suppose top and bottom are identical. Do I need to mark them? I don't need to mark them because the top's a good deal smaller, so there's only one way they'll go back. Okay, so I didn't realise that the cabinet tapers in as it goes up. Okay, so carefully Okay, so that's the two of them out, and yes, they are indeed quite different sizes. The top one is a good deal smaller, and there's also this horizontal strip across the plastic backing, and it obviously just screws in, so I'll take that off. And it's not symmetrical, but the cutouts in the edge of the plastic will ensure that it goes back the right way. I'll see what I can do with that. That may need some paint stripper on it or acetone to remove the lacquer. In fact, the same with the other part of it, I would think. So I might need to get my hands on some acetone. I don't think I've got any in the shed. Now the other thing with this plastic frame is it's got these pieces of wood still stuck to it. They obviously anchored it into the cabinet at one point, and they came out with it, so I need to locate them back into where they came from and glue them in. So this piece obviously comes from the top of the plastic, and it will go into the top of the cabinet in there. So it does have a couple of nails in it. If I can fit them back into their slots, I should be able to get it right back in its original position. In fact, it just sits there nicely. So I'll get some glue onto that and a little clamp, and that'll be a start. Okay, well, this second block is a bit more problematic because it goes right where this veneer has come off on the inside, and I noticed that this was peeling off before, but I didn't realise it was going to be much of a problem. Anyway, I'm going to stick that back in first, so I'll get some glue in behind it and try and put it back where it belongs before I start gluing the blocks back in. So this is the section that's come off. I'll just get some glue onto it, and where it's split there, that's where the nails go through for that block. There's also a missing piece. Anyway, let's see what we can do. So that should just slip into there. Now, to hold it in place, I have a cunning plan. I have this piece of foam rubber pipe insulation, which I can press in against it with this small F clamp, and to stop it marking the other side, I have some anti-grip, some grip cloth. And yes, I think that'll put enough pressure on it to hold it into place. So I'll let that dry for a while and see if it worked. I almost forgot there's these two brass bits on the plastic escutcheon that you almost can't see them because it's so faded or dull. But they apparently come off by bending back these pins on the inside. So I don't know if you can see that. The lighting here isn't wonderful. Okay, so that's that one, and I'll do the same with the other side. So I've got the last of those blocks in there, and while it's drying, I'll just have a look over it and see what else needs doing. This piece down the side of the cabinet is broken off, so what I'll do is mark the position of these screw heads. You remember I blocked these holes up with matchsticks. So I'll just use this nail, put it down the screw hole, and pressing this down firmly against the end. Where do we want it? We want it just there, I think. Just give that a little tap. Same with this one. And this one. Yeah, I guess I should get some glue in there. That will do. There, I'll just wipe that off. So with this done, I need to look at pulling in this top part here, and it needs to be pressed both this way to pull the front section in, and down. I think I've got enough clamps to do it all. What I'm thinking is I might need to use a syringe to squirt some glue into this front end here, because I can't really get glue down into there easily. Bit of glue in a bottle top, syringe, and just suck some of this up. Will do. Okay. I'm going to start on the inside because I think I can get some up in here. And also down behind these glue blocks. So I've made up a wooden block with tape on it to stop the glue from sticking, just to go on the top of there. I'll just put it inboard from the edge a little bit so that the glue squeezes out sideways, and I can wipe it off. And now, just a case of putting a clamp on it, or two. I'll start with this one. Just down a little bit. And the second one can go here. Tighten them up a bit. Just wipe off that glue. Now it also needs to be pressed in this way. Release these a little. And to pull it in this way, I've clamped a block of wood up here inside the cabinet because I don't have a clamp long enough to do the whole lot. And this one will go through here against this block of wood. Kind of need 3 hands for this, but never mind. We'll get it there. There we go. And just press that in there, and that will hold the whole thing tight laterally. And I can just see an extra bead of glue in there, so it obviously did need to be done. I'll wipe that off. There is also an issue at the bottom here that's also broken away. It's not as bad as the top, and there's a chip out of the veneer here that I'll have to repair. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I thought I'd start cutting a piece of veneer to patch this section at the back here. And I'm taking a punt on the fact that they've probably used the same veneer that they used as reinforcing along the edges on the inside. There's probably offcuts of the same veneer sheets. So I've cut a piece of that. I'm just going to mark it in and cut around it here. This corner will need to be built up because there's a piece chipped out of the substrate there. So I'll put something in there to support that as well with some glue. But I just want to mark this out at the moment. So I'll just take a line across there. And along the edge here. Okay, now I'll just cut that down. I did go out a bit wider than I needed to because there's some damage along the bottom here that I want to cover as well. If you're putting in a patch, you may as well do the lot. Now looking at the underside of that veneer that I just took off, and it's pretty much the same as that, I hope. And that should fit in there pretty well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We'll need a little bit of trimming there. Just cleaning up the edges here. A little bit there that was left. And I've trimmed this more or less square. I'll cut a little piece of timber to fit in there. So that will sit there. And the veneer on top of that, and I'll just check this for fit now that I've cleaned it out. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'll just sand a fraction off that corner just to make it sit a little bit nicer. Okay, so I'll just get some glue over this, spread it around a bit. Now this little piece goes in here. And now this can sit in here. Yep, that's pretty good like that. That'll hold it in position. And now I'll just put a little clamp on that. And there we go. It's the next morning, Sunday morning, and thought I'd take these off and just see how it's gone. Start with this one, I guess. Last on, first off. Got everything happening this morning. Roosters, kids picking mulberries off the tree in the lane. So let's have a look at this. So that doesn't look too bad. It's level right along the top there, and there's a small gap at the back there, maybe. Yeah, it's tiny. That will fill up all right. Let's just have a look at the front. So we've got a little bit of a ridge there. I don't know what I can do about that, probably nothing. I'll sand it lightly, but I don't want to go through the timber. I'll need probably a touch of filler over that crack. But all in all, it's solid, it's going to be all right. Let's have a look at my veneer repair in the corner. Take the clamp off. And just take this bit of tape off here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That will sand off nicely. I hope the colour match is good enough. I think it will be. Now the next thing I'm going to have to deal with, and I decided to do this separately, is this bottom has come away. So I'll glue that up separately. That'll just need a clamp across here. And the front corner here, there's a split down there. I don't know how well you can see this because the lighting isn't great again. But again, I'll just put some glue behind that and clamp it up. It's underneath, so it's not going to be highly visible, but I still don't want it there. And while I was waiting for this to dry, I got busy cleaning up the plastics and the brassware. The brass strips have cleaned up quite well. They'll need a final polish, but I managed to get all the lacquer off them. This one the same. I've done the knobs. They've worked out pretty well. There should be a centre piece in these knobs, and it's missing on both of them. There's this little square here which I guess held a clip to hold the centre piece in. Not much I can do about it, so I'll just leave them like that and polish them up. I suppose the next priority is to glue up this bottom section here that's come apart, and that should see the cabinet fairly rigid and all in one piece. So I'll squirt some glue down there with a syringe, I think. Get it down there. And now it's just a case of, I think, just putting a clamp on it and pulling it in. Perhaps a bit of pressure that way as well. Alright, a maze of clamps again, but I'll let that dry for a little while. And then there's a couple of other little bits I want to glue up, and then we're down to stripping the cabinet. Well, all the gluing up's done, and I'm down to looking at how I'm going to strip this. Now, some of the surface has pulled off just with the adhesive tape, so I thought, well, a bit unconventional, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try putting adhesive tape on it and pulling it off and see if that just takes the surface off. If that doesn't work, I'll resort to something more conventional, but let's just try it, hey? Now, this tape has, I think, pretty good adhesion, so I'll put that on. Now, let's see what happens. Pretty good. I'll do another take on that and see if it takes off the remainder. I might have to see if that'll come off with a scraper. And this is just a paint scraper. It seems to be doing a pretty good job of it. I might just continue with this. The scraper seems to work best when some of the other material's been taken off, so I'm going to work with that. Put some tape on, stretch it on, pull it off, and then clean up the remains with the scraper. Okay, so let's see how we go with this. Yeah, that just cleans up the rest very nicely. Well, pretty much finished stripping the top and front. It mostly came off with a scraper. I did use a bit of sandpaper to just take off a few remaining bits. Not so the sides. They are not going to strip up so easily. So I'm going to try paint stripper on them. And I bought this paint stripper. I haven't tried this type before. Fast Strip Omega. I bought it from Repco, which is an automotive shop. So it's automotive paint stripper. Should take just about anything off. But we'll see. I'll just get some sort of a cloth to put under this, and I'm going to mask off the front and top because I don't want stain getting over onto the part I've already stripped. Perhaps I should put it up on its end. That way I won't go dribbling off. Okay, so while that works its magic, I'm going to go and get a scraper and some gloves, and we'll see how it comes off. It's only been a few minutes, but that's peeling off pretty well. It's leaving some stain behind underneath, but I think that should just come off with a light sand. Just peeling off nicely, really. Look at that. Nice stuff, this. Except it just took out a little patch I put in the veneer there. Oh damn, where's the patch? Is that it? That's it. There's the patch there. I'll just put it on top there. Oh, that's a bloody nuisance. Okay. It's starting to dry too, so I better be quick. I think it might need another light coat just to take a few little bits off, but it's done a pretty good job. I'll just tape that little patch to the top there so that I don't lose it. So I'll just go over this one more time and then give it another scrape off, and then I'll have to reattach that. Shouldn't be a big drama. Okay, so that's been a couple of minutes. I'll just try scraping this off again. Oh yeah, those bits are coming off. No problem. Okay, and I'll just give that a chance to dry. I'll wipe it over possibly with some vinegar to neutralise it, and then glue that little patch back in. Well, it's all stripped up pretty well. I'm just going to give it a wipe over with a damp cloth, and we start to see the colour that we're going to get in it. I quite like that. Lighter than it would have originally been. I'm not sure at this point whether I want to put a stain over it or just keep it this colour. I'm going to give it a very light sand over. This is 240 grit paper, just to take off any bits and pieces that are stuck to the surface. And give me a nice smooth surface. I'm not sure whether I'm going to put a stain on this still. Just going very carefully over this damaged area here. Well, after looking at it and thinking about it, I've decided to put a light stain over it. I've got this Feast Watson Old Baltic. Old Baltic suggests a yellowish colour, I suppose, but this is nothing like that. In fact, the name is quite misleading. It's quite a nice nutty colour. I've used it on something before, I can't remember what. Anyway, I'm just hoping I've got enough left to finish the job, but I can always go down the hardware and get some more if I need it. Tip some in here and just wipe it on. Nothing much to it really. I guess I'll start in them. Oh, I'll start this way. How's that? By the way, I did paint in the edges of the exposed plywood. I didn't video that because the camera was flat and I couldn't be bothered to wait for it to charge up, so I have to take my word for it. There we go. Actually, I do think that looks nice. Looks quite good. This is damaged bit here, but I've got all this stuff and I'll put that in when I reattach the bottom plinth here. Some of it's stuck to that. Okay, so the sides. I think I'll just need a drop more, but I will have enough, so that's good. So there's that veneer repair, close to invisible. There's a slight banding through the grain and you just miss the corner of that there, but yeah, it's not something that you probably notice unless you pointed it out. Now I'll just rub the excess stain off with a clean cloth. I've left it on for a fair while. I think it's quite good the colour it is, so I don't want to rub too much off. Anyway, pretty happy with the colour. I'll let that dry and I think then we'll put on the gold stripe and then grain filler. The next step is going to be to reproduce that gold stripe on the cabinet, and as usual I've devised a cunning plan. What I'm going to do is cut, it's 7mm in from the end and 2mm wide, so I'm going to cut a 2mm wide strip out of a piece of masking tape, but leave the piece of tape intact. Apply it to the cabinet and then peel off the strip, and hopefully that will give me an even strip. I'm using this straight edge to cut it, so here goes, wish me luck. This is the first cut at 570mm long we need it. I've already done one and messed it up, so alright, now I move this down 2mm to my second mark, and I'll just make sure that that's accurate. So now I'll just move this down and we do it again. Pity I didn't have a longer straight edge, but anyway, I think that will be alright actually with one cut. Let's see how it looks. Of course I've got to do this twice, one for each side. That looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is cut some pieces of tape and put them across this every few centimetres to hold the whole thing together. So one across there, say. And now I'm going to peel this off, take it outside and apply it to the radio. Okay, well here goes nothing. I've got this tin of gold paint here which I've given a thorough stir to. A trusted paintbrush. And we'll see how it goes. Coverage is a little bit thin. Might need a second coat. Alright, I'll do the other side, come back and do that one again. Well, it seems touch dry. So I guess this is where we find out if I've completely wrecked it. So far so good. That's not too bad. There's a slight ridge along the edge which I may be able to smooth down a little bit. But yeah, I'm happy enough with that. Well, the post office brought me a little present today, a new ECC85 which I bought on eBay a couple of weeks ago. Finally arrived, and here it is. So I'm going to put this in and just see if it makes a difference to the FM reception. So take out the old one. Alright, let's see what we get. Okay, turning it on. Hasn't quite warmed up yet. We'll see. Oh, here we go. It's starting to come up.
Contact the Dakin experts at fordanddoonan.com.au or on 1-800-AIRCON. And
have a Ford and Doonan day. At Target, it's savings all the way, with over 1,000 beauty items reduced to clear at 50% off. Shop online, in-store or via the Target app. Hurry, only while stocks last.
Okay, so that's about half volume, I guess. It's pretty good. And I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get it. So, yeah, okay. Now, while I've got the chassis out, I may as well bite the bullet and try and do an FM alignment, the RF alignment anyway, try and line it up, because the stations don't seem to be coming in very close to the markings on the dial at all, so I guess I better address that. Now, reading through the alignment instructions, I missed probably the last bit of the IF alignment. It says to connect the output of the signal generator between control grid of B2 and the chassis and put in 10.7 megahertz. Then it goes through the IF alignment. But the last stage, which I missed because I was distracted by that coil that I couldn't tune, it says transfer the live signal generator lead to the FM aerial socket and adjust the core of L8 for maximum DC on the meter. Now, I didn't do that. L8, just looking at the thing, is the can below the ECC85. It's there. So, okay, so I've got an FM modulated signal going there, and I can It's not great, but I can hear it. So I'm just going to, sorry I can't show you this, it's a little bit awkward because the chassis is too big to put sideways on the bench and point the camera at it. But I'm just adjusting the core of that transformer. And yeah, I can hear it coming up. A lot. And that's going down again, so that's its peak there, and it did come up quite a lot. So you know what, I'm just going to disconnect this for a minute and see if that's made a difference to our FM reception. Put the aerial back up on top here where it probably belongs. I'm picking up some interference from that, so I'll turn that off for a second. And
it just becomes a...
We continue, alright? We're on the you. It was behind you, and you were.
that is absolutely booming in. And I also noticed that on the tuning indicator here, we're getting much more deflection on that as I tune across the FM dial. That's really pumping in now, so adjusting that L8 has made a big difference to the FM reception. So having done that and got quite a big difference, look, I may as well set it up properly, and then I'll see if I can stretch it to receive a couple of extra stations. The FM RF alignment looks very simple. It says tune the receiver to 88 megacycles, feed in an 88 megacycle signal and adjust the cores of L3 and or L4 by slackening the lock nut on the pivoted adjusting arm on the gang spindle. So that's this adjustment on top of the tuning gang. Now it's coming in just below 88 there. That seems to be the strongest point there. So if I can adjust that to 88, I should be pretty much okay. Now this adjuster here is right at the end of its travel. I can't move it any further that way. And I think that's the direction I would have to move it in order to line it up. I'm not sure why this is happening.
And unbeatable prices.
Well, after endless hours of fiddling around with this adjustment here, which basically matches up the movement of the FM tuner to the AM tuner, it occurs to me that that's a problem that you wouldn't have with a German set where you have a clutch adjustment and you can set the two entirely separately. With this they have to line up. But after endless fiddling, as I said, I've managed to get everything to line up. There's 94.5 coming in at 94.5. 96 we will get 96 FM. In fact, all the stations are coming in pretty much where they should be, so I haven't had to adjust L2 at all. I thought I'll just leave well enough alone. I don't want to go messing with it and make things potentially worse. I'm happy enough with the way it is. The reception is really good since I adjusted this other coil. So it's just about time to put it back in the cabinet. The cabinet's nearly ready. I'm just about to put the new faceplate on, which will be nice, and I'll take it out of this frame, and I think it'll just about be ready to go. I've made up another FM dipole here, and it works very well as well, so I'll mount that in the cabinet when I put it back in. That was mounted, or would have been mounted, on the original back panel, which I don't have. So finally unpacking, or at least re-unpacking, the dial that Warren sent me all that time ago, and it's been safely stored away ever since then. And here it is. That is a perfect dial, beautiful. So I'll just very carefully put that on, and in fact I think I'll take the frame off the radio first, just in case I had an accident while doing that. I'm a bit nervous about this. I'd hate anything to happen to it. There we go. And just screw this over here. And that's it. I've managed to clean up these piano keys pretty well. They were quite warped, and I think it's a design fault. They wouldn't have been manufactured that crooked, but I've straightened the backs of them at least, so it's not so obvious. There's not much more I can do with that. Also, these tone knobs were also warped, but I fixed that, or improved it anyway, by heating them up, putting a socket on top and pushing them back into shape. I suppose early plastics technology, they weren't all that aware of what could or could not be done with it. Anyway, we'll place these back in. Okay, and the other one. There we go. And these just fit on here, I think. Yep. They're still not perfect by any means, but they'll have to do. So the lacquer seems to have hardened up enough to wet sand it. I've done the sides already, just to see how it went, and in case I made any mistakes. There's not a lot of orange peel or anything on this, so I'm using 1200 very, very fine wet and dry paper. Just making sure there's no lumps or scratchy bits on it, and there is a scratchy bit there. Yeah, that's okay. So I'll just give it a gentle sand over, just to make it flat as I can, get rid of all those little nibs and bumps. I'll see how that looks. Once it's dried off, I'll be able to see the surface better and see if I need to go any further. It's pretty good. A little bit more along the back there, I think. Well, I've rubbed it back as far as I'm willing to. The big danger, of course, with doing that is that you go through the lacquer, and I really don't want to do that. I think I've managed to avoid it. I could take it down a little bit further, but I don't know if there'd be a lot to be gained. I'd rather not risk it. So, a bit of polish, and I'm using Autosol metal polish on this, and we'll see how it comes up. Alright, I'll just let that dry for a minute and then polish it off. It's starting to look not too bad. This area here is where the cabinet was split, and it's turned out pretty well. You can barely see it. So now I'm going to finish off with some of this Jilly's furniture wax. Good stuff. I've used it a number of times before. Okay. And that wax really does bring it up to a nice shine. I suspect it's got a fair bit of carnauba in it, because you really have to get into it to get the shine up. Just hopefully slot this in. There we go, slots in nicely. Small gap on that side and none on this side, but I think it's okay. I've coated all of these with lacquer, of course, to stop them corroding. And these, oh, that's not so easy. How does that go on? Must go on front first and then wrap around, I think. Like that. Now, hopefully this will just slot in where it was meant to go. Well, the time has come to put it back in the cabinet. I think I've got everything sorted here. So, luckily it's fairly easy to put in, I think. I'll just slide it in here.
My home care package with Juniper, I built strength in the legs and regained my independence. Now I confidently visit the beach, holding Mary's hand. We dip our toes in the ocean. Life's good.
Juniper, your local home care partner. Station sponsor juniper.org.au.
Well, there it is, back in the cabinet, working very nicely, and gee, it sounds good. Of course, most of the FM stations are music, so I can't play much of that. But I'll just do a quick tune across the dial anyway.
At church and at school. Just imagine the impact of school. .au.
Co-host, you can listen to the full hour, just search Triple M's Homegrown on the Listener app. Comeback single from The Living End they never thought they'd release, plays after the new one from Logan, Famous, Triple M's Homegrown.
Never like to wait in line.
Well, there it is, back together. Well, for all intents and purposes, I have to still make a back panel for it, but I'll get around to that probably next week. But I'd have to say this is one of the best sounding radios I've ever had. It's a beautiful sound to it. I don't know if the microphone picks it up all that well, but it's got a lovely firm bass to it, nice clear sound, and it picks up just about anything. I might run through the shortwave band later and see what we get on that, but it is pretty damn good. So it's been quite a long haul, this one, several months I think, interspersed by a trip around up to Broome and back, and it's great to have it finally back together and working. So I hope you've enjoyed this long series. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon with another radio. Bye for now.